Hello, 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 and welcome back to another episode of Vox Jed Fight About It. And today we've got another guest episode. We've got Bush back on, and I know we said we weren't going to do double guest episodes. We weren't going to let somebody back on if they've already been on, but some bizarre circumstances happened, and
there are circumstances involved. Yeah.
Yeah.
And I wasn't going to talk about it. I wasn't going to talk about it initially. I was like, no, this should be a positive recording session. This should be about the future. But right before we get into, you know, everything that is the now, I feel like we kind of left that whole thing for the podcast audience at least unexplained. But to make a long story short, I don't really have any questions about it. I think me and Jed are just about all questioned out about this particular topic. But like, to make a long story short, Bush had a real icky time at VidCon last year, and it caused some trouble.
Yeah.
It caused some trouble for him.
For my sake, without I'm willing to explain.
If you want to explain, go ahead.
To talk about it and not go into detail of what essentially happened, I basically got caught up in some allegations during VidCon. That event kind of put me in a position where I was kind of casted aside by almost everything imaginable. And of course, when there's serious allegations, you have to take your time with them, and you have to take your time on how to handle them and how be able to like resolve them in the time. I had to take a month off because I was just not in the right headspace. A lot of things could have gone differently. I genuinely believe a lot of things could have gone differently if just things were just talked out. But me, this is my first time ever dealing with this type of situation. I kind of had to take time with it. I took a month off, and after a month, I finally had to talk about what happened. I got my message out, and I will just say this because I know some people had some raised eyebrows or whatnot about what I have said or what I have not have said. And the best way I can go about it is I'm here. That's the best way I can go about it. Everybody, most of everyone I have talked to is people who are willing to talk about things, who actually have an open mind about stuff, willing to use facts over whatever is said. So it's not great. Things could have gone a lot better. My mental health wasn't in the best, but at the end of the day, I have taken the time to reconnect with everyone, get things sorted out, and here I am.
Exactly.
Nice.
And I don't typically like to open a show with something that heavy, but we usually kick these off by talking about what have our guests been up to since we had them on the show. And I think for you, it doesn't like in terms of like things to discuss beyond that. I don't really think you've been up to much. I think that pretty much covers the what has Bush been up to section.
Yeah, I think the reason why I say that it's just the best to cover it up is because that's I just been in what's the word, damage control for the last 6 months, if that makes sense.
Right.
I've been like trying to talk to us. I've been busy with I have been doing content on this site, which is nice. I've been going out more, which is nice. I've been streaming a lot more, which is nice. But generally, it's just primarily been a lot of damage control, because one day everything could be, you know, chill and relax. The next day, everything's on fire. Speaking on fire, my area's on fire, guys. So, we just kind of,
apparently.
It's my fault. Yeah, I had some pots and pans. According to Enzo, I had some pots and pans lying around, so everything got on fire. But other than that, if anyone of the podcast actually has any questions about that, I prefer if you DM it to me, and I would appreciate it.
Yeah,
no, absolutely. But it's I feel that's the perfect thing to open with. I feel like that's the perfect thing to open with, just solely because it's like this should be out in front, I think, as like a precursor, because I feel like it's really woven itself into a lot of why your plans are the way that they are going forward into this year. And I felt like it might maybe get mentioned somewhere along the line, and I didn't want to. Bad form for an audience member to have to hear like, oh yeah, and then I got canceled, and then I came back, and then it's just like, what, huh?
I came back. It makes sense, because when someone gets canceled, there's a lot that goes into it. In this case, in my opinion, I hate the term canceled as like kind of a phrase,
it makes it seem so petty, especially for something like this.
It's really petty. It's the better wording is just some type of serious allegations. Because seeing because
Yeah.
anyone can get canceled for XYZ reason. Someone gets canceled because they said a terrible slur. Someone gets canceled because they said the wrong thing or they're running the Minecraft server very poorly. So that's why I don't like using the term cancel. I joke about getting canceled because it's just funny, but when you actually look into what has happened, it's just better to say, hey, there was these allegations that were just debunked.
No, yeah, absolutely. But that's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
It's just like I didn't want it to be like kind of like frivolously thrown in somewhere in the middle of the show, and then people have to
Yeah, exactly.
go like hunting and searching. But that
Oh,
that
yeah.
in particular, it also warranted explanation as soon as possible because it had a weird effect on this show. And the way it went going forward. And to say that is like because of that you came up in a lot of episodes because like you were head of most of the projects that the two of us and anybody we would have on in a given week.
Yes,
you
actually.
were, yeah.
Yeah,
and so
actually. So what? Oh, sorry. You may proceed.
Oh no, yeah, I was just finishing.
This is gonna be a long episode
This
because
is
I have a
gonna be
lot
a
to talk about,
long
like such
episode.
topic.
Oh yeah. But I was just saying that like your name for multiple reasons would come up a lot in the show, and there were some people that reached out who had been on the show that were like, "Hey, can I have my episode taken down?" In the wake of that, and I was just like, "Oh shit, we're losing episodes fast. We gotta like take a stance as a show, or we're not gonna have a catalog anymore." You know?
And I will say this: it's 100% understandable on why you guys did it. You have a brand to protect, which is the show. Vox and Jed fight about it. It makes sense why you guys had to put everything on lockdown. Actually, I'm not sure if you guys still have that episode up where you guys talk about my situation. I'm not sure if I asked you guys to take down that episode, or it's still up, or the intro where you have to address the allegations.
Yeah,
but
when I put that one back on
I do-
Spotify, I might use the YouTube editor to cut that explanation at the beginning, or I might leave. I don't know. It's inaccurate now, but like it's again, I don't want to feel like I'm like rewriting history here on how we handled that at all.
Oh no, 100%. It's just
But also,
it
like
makes
when I
sense
put
why
that
you guys
episode
had to
back
do
up
it.
on Spotify, I intended to like pull it into Premiere and like just snip that bit off the front since it's no longer relevant because it's an explanation of like, hey, like 3 of our episodes are gone. Here's why, and those
Here's
episodes are
why,
back.
yeah.
So,
Yeah. To put it, I don't think there's a way to put it lightly. It was just a sucky scenario because I'm not gonna name them, but some of the people still stay close to me and kept me updated of like, hey, someone said this about you. Hey, someone said a statement about you. Hey, this XYZ has happened. The best way I can go about it is, I think the number one thing is I just didn't give up at the end of the day. Cause like a part of me felt like a part of me was like, I have to keep going. This isn't right. This isn't fair.
right.
Yeah.
So, and as of the time of this recording, almost any statement that has been put out against me has been taken down because they have been proven to be false. And I'm willing to be open about that because I need people to put into emphasis of when you believe it's not the same for everyone. Because someone can think they're right, but they're wrong. But in that position, I felt I was in the right, and I was just put into like a gunfire without any warning. I had this conversation with multiple people about how it just happened too fast. It didn't give me time to breathe or to prepare myself.
Yeah. I feel like that's why a lot of people took the stance they did so immediately, myself included, is just that, you hear all the time that it's just like it's the safer bet, not the safer bet as in for reputation, but the safer bet for everyone's like actual safety to take the victim at their word at first
that is
until
true.
more evidence presents itself, and then
Of course.
we just heard nothing from you, which was understandable. I need you to know that like I wasn't expecting like, why hasn't Bush put out a doc yet? It's been 2 days. He just got like accused of like this awful shit like days ago. Why hasn't he, already like internalized it and responded? And like I know that kind of thing takes a while, but it's just like in the moment it's hard to make any other call than the one that everybody made. And you ended up on a very like at the other end of the barrel when it comes to like the Minecraft content community, and that sucks, dude. That really sucks.
It's not easy. Actually, I had a few people who actually reached out and actually took time. The reason why it took so long is because I didn't know myself of like what was happening. I was too overwhelmed. I was too confused. I was too panicked during this time. a part of me, like, I was very conflicted of like, what should I do? Because at the time, I still had a lot of what I think the best way is this, I still felt like I cared too much of what the other people thought. And a part of me was like, you know what? I'd rather just take it and just walk away, right? But I had good psychiatrists, I had good friends, I had good therapists. Essentially, it's me above all at the end of the day. And I feel like that's something I feel more people should generally think about. It's just, it should be them above how the other person feel or the person that got you into those allegations feel. Because that's why it took so long. Because it was a moral dilemma between me or XYZ. And the reason why I gotta be blunt is I will refuse to name drop anything. I will refuse what happened because I just do not need that back in my life. So I took a while, and I understand. Actually, Jed and Vox, I know you two were very hesitant at first to come talk to me about certain things, because you guys were told one thing, but then other people told you other things. So, if I may ask, so I'm gonna be also interrogating you guys in this.
Oh,
So,
boy.
if that's cool
Alright.
with you.
Yeah, no, go ahead.
Yeah.
Yeah,
We get
actually, so
questions
one of
thrown
the
back
things
at us all the time.
Yeah, actually, if I may ask, like, why were you, when you guys were first told of my return, why were you guys very hesitant about me back first, if I may ask?
We weren't told of your return. We didn't hear anything about you or any of your name being cleared. We just saw that people were following you back on Twitter, and
Got
we
it.
were kind of in a situation of like, well, we haven't heard anything from this person, and if this person is what we've heard from large amounts of people as fact, we don't really want to be involved with Willow if we're just gonna kind of fly that under the rug. So we ended up reaching out to Enzo first, and we didn't really have any information prior to that.
That makes sense,
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, all the
Actually, so
information we
we
had was, and of course the folks at Willow are great, are great, and like not
Yes, they
like
are.
this at all. But at the time, I had never had anything more than a superficial interaction with anybody from Willow, really, in my time on the server, and so I was like, I don't like. Sure, these people are nice, but I don't know where their morals lie. I don't know if they would be willing
Exactly.
to. If you were
Exactly.
completely, if you ended up being completely guilty, I don't know how likely like they would be to be able to push that under the rug and just move on with life as normal. And I was like, I'm not. If that were to be
You're
the
not
case,
gonna be
I
a part of
totally
this.
wouldn't be cool with that. Yeah, no.
Yeah.
Exactly.
And so
Actually, now
that's
that you bring
where
that
like
up,
the reach out came from, because I was like, there's no way that this is happening how I think it's happening. I must be missing something. Like that's what I actively said to Jed at the time, was like, I gotta be missing something here. We need to talk to Enzo.
Yeah, I will admit that I was on a more pessimistic end of just like, I mean, either something's
Just always
happening
ready to see
or
the
we're
worst
leaving.
in somebody.
Not somebody. I like to be aware of
Oh no,
bad
my bad. Not
situations when
somebody.
they happen.
Everybody.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly.
actually,
No,
so
yeah.
that actually brings up a good thing I do need to mention is because upon me returning and having a statement released, right, one of the things I knew is odds would be horribly against me, because even to this day, for people still think I did a horrible thing without seeing my dog,
Oh,
and
yeah.
I knew it would be a while. So that's why I was kind of bracing for it. Actually, another reason why it took a month is because I was actually thinking of a game plan to get my reach out to as many people as I can. And the best way is, it's like Batman with prep time. I knew it's gonna work out. It's just I need that prep time to make sure it actually goes well. And actually, to my surprise, it actually went well, because I'm not gonna go into the specifics of how my prep time went and how it followed through. But I knew what I was doing. I knew how I was gonna get the message out to everybody. The only thing I was not accounting for is how long will it take to reach everyone. Because like I could be lucky and it could take like a week, or I could take a few months. The short answer is, the time it finally hit everybody, it took at least like a month and a half till it finally been like, wait a minute, Bush said something. And that's what I meant by like, it was just not easy. Actually, a conversation I had with Vox and Jed not that long ago is Voxel told me, it's like, Bush, I can tell you right now, you just survived the first hardest month of of this year. Get ready for the second hardest month of the year. And I'm like, oh, I'm ready. And he's not wrong. It was not easy.
I would like to say I was making a broader point about like, yeah, that was definitely the worst of it. That doesn't mean you're out of the woods yet. This is going to be the second worst of it, but it will only get easier with time. Is kind of where I was like meandering toward with that, and I just realized how bad that sounded from like a third person. Anyway, you were saying.
Yeah. No, I think ultimately at the end of the day, it's just it was tough. It was tough. It was a really tough period in my life. My mental health wasn't the best. Just imagine like a bunch of your friends, that people you call your friends, just up and left. Some of them without checking up on you. Of course, I still had people around me, very close people. But I just wish things were different. But generally, I like to under the belief is sometimes something bad has had to happen for something good to come in your life. And that's been the case as of so far. It's been the case. This bad thing had to happen for something else to open up, which generally was a better direction in my life, and I'm very grateful for that. Actually, someone I am gonna name drop on the show is Enzo. Enzo is the best way. I think it's a guardian angel to me. Enzo, like Enzo was one of the last few people one of the last few people I had to talk to before, like, so I have a close inner circle, and Enzo was essentially the last person for me to talk to. But ever since me and Enzo reconnected, she's just been incredible. She's been helping me throughout every step of the way. She's been talking to people for me. She's been trying to help me out in every way possible. And it's been great. And generally, I don't think I would be where I am without Enzo's help. And there's a ton of other people who I'm incredibly grateful for. My friend GT, who is an Australian content creator. They were one of the people who also welcomed me back with open arms, just trying to help me out. Halo and Krim were some of the people to talk to me when I came back and explain everything to them. So generally, it's just been nice knowing people care, because for a time period, I believed it was just me against everyone, and it was just not easy.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
No, I feel you, and I feel like you finally, like, from my perspective, I finally feel like you're, like, quote unquote back now that you're back involved with Willow and everything proper. Like, it just feels like right that everything is back the way that it should be. Which, by the way,
I do have to stop you there for a
oh no,
second,
yeah, go
because
ahead.
like I do agree with that, but like still a lot of changes have happened. Because yeah, even though I am back, I'm fully back. I'm joining. I
of
should
course.
be returning to Willow within the next 2 days, and we actually have something planned. It's just a lot of the things that originally has happened had just completely shifted. I am returning to, because the last time I was on the podcast, I was co-owner of Willow, and all my projects. So that would be Concertcraft and Willow SMP. But as of right now, I am returning as a member, and I'm unfortunately not staff or a owner. And it makes sense. It makes sense, but like deep down, it just will always, like, deep down, it's always just going to be kind of heartbreaking to think about that. Because generally, I was talking about it on my private the other day, or like on one of my privates, where it's just like Willow has always been a home for me, because I was there. I was actually 3 years ago, before I met Enzo, I was in the VC when it was created, and I was the third person invited to the overall server. I was there since season 0, and working with Enzo from building it from essentially season 0 all the way to season 2 in Consecraft. Generally there has been its rough patches, and there has been like disagreements and arguments, but generally it has always been a home to me. And actually, something I always told Enzo is, like, I wanted to quit Willow for the longest time. One of the reasons why I even said that to Enzo is because I just did not have a direction to take Willow in. I just felt lost. I just felt like I didn't know what to do. There was no direction I felt happy with taking Willow with at the time. But then Consecraft happened, and Consecraft showed me that I am capable of making a good story. I am capable of making people have a good time. And that's when I felt like I was so excited for season 3 to happen. But as everything said, VidCon happened, everything got into allegations, and that just sucks.
Yeah.
So it's just heartbreaking that essentially the project I was working on for 3 years, I can no longer have that ownership status. I don't have that staff status anymore because of what has happened. Do I yearn for it? Yes, almost every day. I would love to come back as a staff. I would love to come back to being a co-owner. But unfortunately, that is not my say anymore. At the end of the day, that is up to staff. That is up to Enzo. And at this point in time, I couldn't even tell you if if they're even open to that decision at all. I have a lot of compelling arguments on why I should come back, but at the end of the day, that's up to them. It's no longer my say. It's heartbreaking. It's just rough. This is how the outcome has happened, considering everything. But for the time being, I just gotta accept how things are, and I'm just glad to just be back in Willow as a member back in Willow.
Right, right. And I wanted to talk
Yeah.
a little bit about that. I have a few questions relating to that about like, because you were just talking about how like you're coming back as a member and not a staff member, and how that's different for you and a different experience for you, and how you wish you were back where you were, but things are different. Have you do you think you're actually going to like? Could you see yourself coming to enjoy this like period of like? Even assuming you get what you wanted and ended up back in staff eventually, like, do you ever think that you look back on this period and go, like, actually, it was kind of nice not to have to like actively work on anything and just get to play the game?
Actually, yes. Actually,
little bit.
that's actually good. That's actually a good question. I have actually thought about that. I think so. One of the reasons, actually, I had a conversation with Enzo not that long ago about like how one of the reasons why my character Bush and Willow didn't really have an arc or had a story is because I was too busy managing the lore. And yes, you could argue like I didn't need it to manage the lore; the players can do it themselves. But I don't know. I just love just being kind of the DM, like the dungeon master of the entire series, just making everything go. I love playing Herobrine. I love like season 2. Season 2 was actually one of my favorite seasons when it comes to story. And it was just generally fun. But I think this time away from staff, and I need to be okay. I do need to be careful about what I say because I'm constantly scared that staff will straight up like book it in my direction and
Oh, they listen to the
suplex
show.
me.
They listen to
I
the
know they
show.
do.
A lot of them. Be careful.
I know. Guys, you are doing a terrible. No, I'm kidding. Staff is doing a great job. I believe staff is doing a great job. It's just, it feels like ever since my return, and I am going to be open about this, it just feels like, it feels like I'm kind of like stepping on ice, specifically around staff. I do know some reasons, I do know other reasons, but generally, for me to say like, will I ever be back on staff? That is just an answer I don't have now. I don't have a good answer for that. I generally don't know if that's even going to be a possibility. If I'm lucky, 3 months. If I'm unlucky, probably never. So it's just it's just an open-ended question. It just generally just depends. I'm like, I don't really know. I don't really have an answer. I don't have an answer
I don't
because
know.
I
Yeah.
I I just don't have an answer to like when you ask me if you got everything that you wanted, if that's returning to Koner, I'll be ecstatic. I'll be happy. But I need to kind of be realistic right now, and I just have to accept as facts of like that is not my decision right now. That is
Yeah.
not my decision right now, and I just have to accept being a member. If I'm told like, hey Bush, would you like to return to staff? I'll take it on a heartbeat. I'll absolutely take it on a heartbeat. But as of right now, any answer can be thrown in any different directions. Like I said, I generally believe staff is doing a great job as of right now. They actually been handling the lore, they've been handling the server as well as they can. From a writer perspective, I feel some things could be different about the lore, but generally how things are going, I think it's good.
Yeah.
Yeah, no,
Yeah.
absolutely. I think we're going in a generally good direction. Especially with the more insistence upon lore recaps and the more insistence upon like I think just about everybody on the server agrees, that at least all of them that I've spoken to that like we need to be a more unified like unit when it comes to like
Yeah.
the lore stuff. Like we got to figure this out.
Actually, so that's why I actually came to you guys not that long ago to talk about a few things about, the lore and whatnot, about the timelines, is because one of the things I was told about the lore is, hey, it feels like there's no big thing to unite against, or like one big thing that people have to. Of course, there's been everyone's character stories and their own developing stories and their own lore, but it never felt like there was that one centralized thing that everybody can mutually agree upon. And I was told like that's slowly getting into that position. Actually, that's why I come to talk to you guys
Yeah.
to talk about like, hey, how do we feel about this? And one of the first things I did is I asked Enzo if I can talk to Dark about potentially like writing some stuff and being able to like make the lore just make like the future of the lore just have like that consistent unified thing that people can work on. And it's in my opinion,
Absolutely.
this is just me. In my opinion, I think from a writer's perspective, I think it's just easier to have because I'm willing to open up about it. I kind of want to put more of the emphasis on the Willow Tree because from a story perspective, I feel like it's kind of the perfect thing for everybody to like either unite against or to like work together to defend or whatnot. And I generally think that would be. I think I will allow everyone's like branching stories to like be able to like kind of be connected to the central thing.
Absolutely, yeah. But like the biggest thing to me is just that like the biggest like thing I feel that needs fixing consistency wise beyond all of that I feel gets overlooked by like the more glaring stuff is definitely the like, and this obviously isn't me complaining about the server or anything. I like it the way it is, you know, but like there's always improvements to be made. Nobody's perfect.
100%. Like
and I
even their
feel that
console craft. Oh, sorry. Proceed.
no. Yeah, I was just finishing my point that like there are certain things that are like even the big stuff story wise is just like it's a little loosey goosey on the details. What is the void and how many voids are there? Like and like what's the difference? What do they do? Depends on who you're watching actively at that moment in terms of like what's canon and what's not.
Yeah, that actually comes back to Consecraft. It's just like, if I had future insight on what was going to happen into the future, I think I would have written more like implied rules on how like certain things worked. Because
working from like a show Bible?
Like yeah, I think essentially, yeah, no, essentially kind of like a guideline of how certain things work. Because one of the number one things I noticed is that actually it's funny they say that because one of the number one things that is constantly I'm told about stuff is that we don't know what the overarching lore of the server is. Because if I were to ask, hey, Vox Jed, what's the main story of Willow?
Something about cultists and being pushed off a tree. I don't know.
I don't know.
Because like it depends on how you measure what a main story is. I get that the point that you're making is that there isn't really one, and that's the
there isn't a like, and I'm like I'm not saying like I'm not saying like get rid of everyone else's like story or lore. No, it's just from a view because I also like to think of this as a viewer because if you introduce someone to Willow and they're like, oh great, where should I begin and what's the story? You can get 10 different answers being like, go watch Dark, go watch Crim, go watch Cass, go watch I don't know, go watch Derpy, go watch Ellie, go watch Saki, go watch Abens. You can get like you're being told to go watch different perspectives, but if you don't really know what's happening from a viewer perspective, it just gets confusing.
Oh yeah,
absolutely.
And that's kind of why we
do a lot of sort of our own thing when it comes to like the vibe, and I think that's sort of the beauty of a project like this is that you can bring your own vibe to it. But we always strive to like try to sit ourselves in the world, like sort of like make things work appropriately, and like, well, I know this for a fact, and like about the Willow lore because I was told it by so and so like we need to work with that, not against it, and like. There's also, like, the maintenance of tone required, where, like, I usually try to avoid doing our funny fuckabouts during, like, actual important angsty lore moments.
Yeah.
Because it's just, like, there is a tone to be maintained. But, like, you know, because I don't want it to feel like, if you're coming from, like, let's say, fucking, Crim's stream to my stream, you're not getting, the difference there, you're not getting, like, it doesn't feel like you're looking at two completely different pieces of media happening on the same Minecraft server, you know? Like, they should feel as though they're, like, spin-offs of each other. They should feel grounded in the same world, but, like, still part of the same main branching thing, you know? Very, very, like, MCU-esque, very expanded world sort of...
Expanded
sort of
world,
a vibe going here.
I always feel like, because, like, I enjoy everyone's personal story. And I feel like it's great, but I feel like everything should just kind of have that centralized, thing, because you know how the big thing for Consecraft was Herobrine. Herobrine was kind of the big bad that everybody was trying to do, right? But at the same time, it felt like because of this one big bag everybody has to unite against, everybody was doing their own lore, but it made sense back to the centralized thing, like your guys' time travel shenanigans. The reason why a whole separate timeline was created because Herobrine possessed Jed. The reason why Rifty wanted to go summon the Witherstorm was to go stop Herobrine. The reason why the world is getting corrupted is because of Vox and Jed's time travel shenanigans and Herobrine having future insight of the future. It's a lot of things that make sense, but it kind of was able to like go back to the centralized thing because of the main problem.
Yeah, that's sort of what I liked about it was that like you couldn't talk about one plot line going on like on our streams without talking about what Rifty was up to or what Nebula's up to up the road a ways, or like vice versa. You also like you also could like you would be hard pressed to have like a main plot line Herobrine conversation without also discussing the fact that oh yeah, they're like underground henchmen doing time travel during all this. Don't worry about it. You know?
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
You know, and then there was the whole skulk infection thing. I love that pre-console craft we had this big talk as like a collective group. Maybe it was during even, but it was before the skulk stuff really kicked off much. Where like the skulk plot was kind of just waiting in the wings, and then we all sat down in a Discord call and expressed our want of just like, man, skulk plot lines are played the fuck out. Why are we still doing a skulk plot line? And then everybody took that and immediately was like, this is played out anyway. I'm just gonna go completely fucking wild with it. Or at least that's what we ended up doing. And so we just like we were like, well, let me take this. I personally have never done a skulk plot. Let me use this like inconsequential like bit of time we have on console craft to get that out of my system, and then I'll be good to go and move on to another thing. You know?
Yeah, 100%.
But yeah, no, but that was what was so great about it was that like everything links together, you know, everything had sort of a pull on everything else, and it all felt like it was grounded in the same space. Like it didn't feel hard to imagine like Herobrine's mini games happening while we're also like down there working on a thing, you know. It didn't feel hard to imagine like skulk infection stuff and Herobrine stuff happening in the same sort of area. You could easily believe that the fucking the Fallen Kingdom area existed in the same world as like everything else, you know? Like it all became, even though it was so like actually physically divorced from the rest of it and so obviously like I don't want to say out of place because it wasn't really out of place as much as it was just like definitely kind of on its own out there. And so but it still managed to feel connected. It still managed to feel a part of this larger thing, and that was great. And I feel like one of the roadblocks we run into here is that like console craft was a month long, and so there was a lot of very knee-jerk sure whatever decisions made that resulted in like a lot of people like, you know, clasping hands and deciding to like do like a little collaborative thing 1 or 2 days out of it, you know, then would naturally happen. It's harder to maintain that sort of like consistency and coexistence in like a server that runs for like over a year instead of under a month, you know?
Yeah.
Like I feel like that's where a lot of that comes from, problems wise. But yeah, you were saying, Jed, you were saying something before I like went off on this entire tangent.
Whoa, man.
It's gone now.
You know, I think it's gone. Yeah, I think it's gone.
Right.
I've said a lot of stuff about console craft, and I don't know if I could say any more that I haven't already said before, you know?
Yeah, there's not a whole ton that can be said for console craft that hasn't already been said on this show in some way. But moving on to the future. Moving on to the future, real quick. You want to talk about brick by brick? The possibility of brick by brick?
Brick by brick. Yes, actually, I wanted to talk about. So
and what it's been like, even if that doesn't come to be, what it's been like to work on that. Go ahead.
I think so. Brick by brick. I was very excited for brick by brick, but I think one of the biggest things that was just very hard to work with was just time constraints. Because time constraints kind of got me to force like a lot of people to start hopping on more and more. But even with the amount of people I had, we just couldn't finish in time because it was just holiday season. And it was also
worst time of the year to get anything done. Yeah,
anything done. So like, no matter how many times I got like as many people as like I got on, it's just we just felt like we didn't have time. And originally, me and Enzo had to postpone it to January because not originally. We had to postpone it to 2025 because originally it was going to be a January project. But Enzo said there's going to be a lot of things happening in January when it comes to Willow. So I was like, okay, we just gotta put it on definite hiatus for now. Because as much as I would love to work on Brick, because the creator Alec Testria unfortunately passed away to terminal cancer sometime in December 16 or 15. And originally, it was supposed to be like a fundraiser to fundraise money for him, but unfortunately, because of his passing, we were just kind of. I was unfortunately felt like put in a position where I just kind of had to play things. I had to play things. What's the word? Not safer. I just kind of had to bit my tongue and just have to just wait till like that opportunity presents itself.
Yeah. Yeah.
Absolutely, yeah. I hate ending up with projects like that where it's like it's ready, it's waiting on me, and it's the time just hasn't come yet. It's just not ready
Mhm.
yet. Like it's ready, but the world isn't, or it's
It
ready,
isn't
but the
ready,
Yeah.
and
time is
like
not appropriate.
brick by brick is not even like ready yet. Like unfortunately, as of right now, I think I just have to put brick by brick on definite hiatus till I'm ready to be like, all right, we gotta finish building. I gotta fix out the technicalities. It's just, it's all been hassle, and it's all been just unfortunate timings and inconveniences. Unfortunate times and inconveniences that just come in the way.
Mhm.
So at the time being, the
Absolutely.
most I can just say, brick by brick is just on definite hiatus, on definite break. And I think the worst part above everything is I wouldn't be surprised if I just canceled the project entirely because there's just not a good moment, or I just don't have enough manpower to finish it. And it's gonna suck because as much as I'm gonna do a charity, it's just I have to be like, I don't think the charity is gonna perform well. I don't think enough people are gonna get involved. I don't think there's enough interesting content like console craft. So like it's up there of me having to cancel brick by brick, and it's gonna suck because I have bought and like distributed a lot of assets and got stuff for it. So it just sucks. But I hate to say it, I think from a business perspective and a content perspective, sometimes you just kind of have to pull the plug and be like, it's just not gonna work out.
I
No,
don't
yeah,
know. I don't.
the ability to kill your darlings is a very important thing to have. I still think console or not console craft. I still think brick by brick could work. I think it
Mhm.
could work. I feel you in that like there isn't as much of intrigue to do with it as there was with console craft. In that not that I think the possibilities are limited as much as I feel like people are going to see, just a little bit after now that like almost nobody's talking about console craft anymore. We're doing it again. Let's do it again, everybody. Come on, one more time. I would hate for
Mhm.
it to feel like a washed up spiritual successor rather than its own unique thing, you know?
Exactly.
Yeah.
And I think that's the thing I've been trying to figure out. It's just I can't for the life of me figure out what would, because like yeah, the Lego gimmick is the whole thing for Craft, but I can't for the life of me like figure out like how to make it good. I can't, like I'm still like I'm not giving up on a project. When I give up on a project, it's because like I just couldn't figure it out. There was just no way to make it good. There was no way for me to like understandably just have a great way to make it. Not concert for brick by brick. We have the gimmick, not the gimmick. We have the idea, and it was essentially gonna be like I'm going to open up about it now because now I kind of like
Yeah,
no I
absolutely.
just
If
maybe
you're down to talk about it, we're down to hear it.
yeah, because like
Mhm.
one of the gimmick was like so Mustard, love Mustard to death. Mustard was gonna play a warlock in the server, and
Hmm.
it was essentially like Herobrine 2.0. But except he's not scary or creepy. He's just more insane. Have you guys seen Smiling Friends?
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
Either of you? Yeah, he was essentially going to be like the boss type level crazy. So that's what we were
Okay.
Okay.
trying. That's essentially what we're like aiming for, but like with powers of a god. But it's just as of right now, it's just as much as I just gotta figure. It's just there's still a lot I just need to figure out because when I go into a project, it's just I kind of have to plan for everything. Fun fact for Consecraft, I kind of had a lot of the things written down because I'm a nut job and I like to have like different possibilities. So
Mhm.
originally, Herobrine was supposed to show up during week 2 of Consecraft, but because somebody summoned him like during week 1, I kind of had to like go to my backup plan of like week 1 emergencies, and that's how I got things pushed out.
Right, right.
Mhm.
No, yeah, it's good to have contingencies in place. It's good to have contingencies for things like that because you never really know where somebody's going to go with it. When you have this idea and you set it in front of a group of like I don't know how many people were in console craft, like 30. You set it in front of like 15, 30 people and you give
Yeah.
it to them and go like, "Okay, go play. Have fun." And then they end up like doing certain plot points faster than you expect and completely disregarding others that you expected to be big hits. And so it's good to have those contingencies in place. It really is. They can absolutely save your life sometimes working on
Oh
projects like
yeah.
Yes.
this.
Oh, 100%, yeah,
Things can
for
just go wrong.
especially for, like, console crap. It's not that I was expecting it to go wrong, it's just because the number one thing I absolutely knew is the moment I released everybody, I would not be shocked if everybody summoned Herobrine on the first day. it's because like I love our friends, I love the people we talk to, but like I also sometimes know how they act and how they behave when it comes to lore. So like I'm always like expecting like this is what's gonna happen. I gotta brace for that.
Right,
Mhm.
right. I don't
Yeah,
know.
Did
you
I
have to
expect
be
a whole
prepared.
time travel plot? No, but did it help me fix the potholes
We
during
didn't even
season
expect
one?
that.
We didn't
I
expect
can't
that.
believe
Yeah.
it. I can't believe it because I've talked about it so often because you were like, okay, so we knew Jed was in Willow day 2, and I was like, I think it would be funny. I think it would be funny because
It was
Jed didn't know
actually day
what
one.
character. Because
Yeah.
Jed was like, well, we actually had like time to like think on that fact. Jed on day 2 is what I mean. We had time to like think
Oh
and
yeah,
act
yeah.
on it. Like we came into day 2 knowing. And based on that knowledge, I was like, oh man. And Jed was like complaining to me because he was like, I don't know what character to play for Willow when I get to Willow. I don't know what to do there. I don't know how to. Like I've kind of just like I showed up in my regular robot skin this time, so I feel like that's off the table for me. I'd want to just develop a completely new character for Willow if not playing the same character, but I don't know how that would work. And he kind of just left it there on his like out loud musing of that, and I was like, what if I just had him play the same character? What if I just like coaxed him into like, because he didn't overthink this one, he didn't even know he was playing a character until he was actively doing it, you know. We kind of like dipped our toes in and ended up in like a plot area, which is how I prefer to do lore personally. Like I definitely prefer the method of I'm just gonna sit down and play Minecraft with some friends, and then like it's slowly becoming just this like, oh no, there's plot now. There's like bits and characters and like plot points and running gags and things of that nature. But like I was like, okay, I'll just have Jed transport this character he already has to Willow and then back. And then that'll be like a funny haha gag. I genuinely expected Time Machine fucks up, sends Jed to Willow 2. Jed returns instantaneously at the start of the next stream, and we have like, that was weird. Haha, anyway, back to it. And then we just go back to playing the game as normal. And then like that's just how Jed arrives in Willow 2, is that I'll just build a time machine at the start of the next Willow 2 stream and have him
So
pop
when it
out.
comes to when it comes to certain stuff like that, actually a
Got way
skill
out of
that
hand.
I develop. No, it's just so I'm talking about that actually with the whole time travel thing. I
Right,
think a
right.
skill that I was able to pick up pretty well is that I had the ability to quickly just to adapt to what's happening. So that's why I was able to like find an explanation. That's why like even though it kind of took like a few weeks, that's why I was able to find a quick explanation of being like, oh, Jed went to the future and multiple different timelines kind of grew out of that. Actually, you guys explained it to me, but I was able to find like a way to like incorporate that pretty well. And when it goes back to like her releasing a herd of 30 people, I think something like if everything's not scripted, you just kind of have to be ready to like to adapt to almost anything that gets thrown at you.
Oh, absolutely. You really have to be able to yes and in this kind of a situation, because like that's another thing, is that like it's we need like the ability to have that sort of, we need like a lore consultant on hand who can like, hey, I'm planning
Yeah.
on doing time travel. Am I the first person to ever do that? No? Okay, well how was it done before, so we can make this like factually work with the facts that already exist in canon. You know? And
Yeah.
so like
Yeah,
it would be nice, is all I'm saying.
it would be nice. I will say this. I think especially since
The
I'm just
wiki's
gonna
a big
call my
help.
the wiki is a big help. I think especially during my leave for like a few months, I felt like
Right.
because like other than Dark, who was essentially the lore person, there was times when I was like looking at recapping the lore, I had to like ask different questions to different people because apparently some rules were just changed around that just didn't make any sense, or like that's what I meant by like I felt like there should have just been I should have made like kind of a lore bible before everything happened, so like everything had more like rules to follow along. Because for the void, for example, I was given like 10 different explanations on how the void worked. I should have at least just made it like I at least should have just made it the same void and it all followed the same rules.
Yeah.
But I just never got around to do that. I don't know how the void currently works in Willow Season 3. I don't know if it has the same functionality as the void in Console Craft. Herobrine, I don't know if Herobrine is the same from Console Craft. I don't know if Herobrine follows the same rules. It's just there's a lot of things I feel that could be different, or I feel like that could be changed up just for it to be like much smoother.
The way I've made it make
Yeah.
sense in my brain is that void is not a singular. It's like void is a categorization of just like, I was in the void. Okay, which one? Herobrine's void, the like void under the world, the void above the nether, the void here, the void there. Like, because again, even post console craft with like quote unquote, like, because one of the like default ways out of console craft on that like choose your own end thing was like go into the portal, end up in a void somewhere, and then pop out of it at some point, or alternatively stick around and die.
Stick around and
yeah.
die. Yeah.
And so, like, a lot of that was like people choosing, yeah, I'll get sent to a void, and some people imagine that as like, some people imagine that void as like a unconscious stasis, and some people imagined it as no, I was waking in an infinite nothingness for fucking hundreds of years or whatever, or like time distorted, and I only like really felt it for like a month, and like there are so many different explanations as to what the void does and what its effects are.
And I think that's was one of the biggest issues, I believe, like, because there hasn't been like a clear explanation on certain things in the world, it just becomes too messy instead of there having to be like one clear explanation. I think the best way I could explain it is actually no. I was the DCU. I think it's best. Have you guys ever watched what was that? What was the movies that came out? Like not Flashpoint. That's the Flashpoint movie. It was like all the realities are breaking and how it was forcibly being merged into like one. Let me quickly fact check DC movie.
Entirely know DC all that well. I'm a DC guy. I like DC, but it's just I don't know enough to name them.
Oh yeah, no, it's like a Crisis on Infinite Earths. Essentially, yeah, Crisis Infinite, like how like essentially for them to make everything make sense, they made everything into like one collective Earth. Like that's essentially how it ended. It was a pretty bad movie, but essentially that's essentially what it did. And I feel like when it comes to Willow, I feel like there should just be one definitive thing, and I feel like that's just how it should go. For example, the Void, because how I originally written the Void was it was a location into where it's a location in like outside of time and space where it was just a void of nothingness. That's how I wrote it, and time is not accurate in there. But then, next thing I know, there's like 10 different voids. Like, the void is like a hallway of prisons. Herobrine's void. There's this void where it's just nothing. There's this void under the world. And just because of that, it does not feel coherent, and it just gets confusing. It will make sense. It 100% makes sense when you explain it to somebody, but when someone is coming in for a first time, it just doesn't make sense.
Yeah. Yeah.
No, absolutely. It makes it almost impossible to explain to somebody. It's very much like a thing that like if you watched it from its inception, you would get it. Like if you like started with somebody at their very beginning, like even somebody like me who joined late into the start of season 2 and whatnot, you could still piece it together. But if you were to try to pick it up where it is right now, even at the start of season 3, for most people, it would be impossible to like keep mental track of what you're watching and looking at.
Yeah,
and like what any of it means.
Yeah, exactly. And I think that's something I actually do want to like talk to Enzo and some of the lore writers about, is because like I want to like be able to like push like Willow into like be more accessible for new people and new viewers, because people who's already on the server for like a few months now, they know everything. They essentially know what X by Z is. But when it comes to a new viewer, when it comes to new people joining the server, how are you going to explain to them there's 4 different types of voids? And I'm like, and when someone says I've been sent into the void, and in the back of their mind there's 4 different voids, I don't know how to get started with that one. It's just like, so is it the void? Is it Airbrine's void? Is it a prison hallway of voids? Is it a void under the world? And it just gets confusing. And from a writing standpoint, I don't think it's a great idea. And I just feel like things could be changed. Things could be like moved around just to make it a lot easier.
And the difficult part though is that once it's said, it can't be unsaid. So it's like, now, even if there were to be canonically, only, let's say 2 voids, that's a problem for previous lore, and so it's walking on eggshells,
It's fucking eggshells, yeah. And here's the worst part, right? A number one, like for me as like someone who tends to write a lot of stuff, the number one rule I tend to put on myself is I'm not allowed to retcon stories or like retcon information.
I hate retcons.
Like, yeah. Retconning, I generally believe retconning is just bad from like a story perspective.
Yeah, retconning is an inherent failure on you as an author to maintain consistency.
Yeah, so essentially, so when it came to the idea of like when we were in VC with Enzo and we were talking about like, oh, Enzo said like this ending happened. I did not want to like like it took me a bit to actually understand what you were saying, but I did not want to like retcon the original ending of Willow season 1 because a lot of people have a lot of fond memories there. But it just doesn't make sense to like retcon that ending. But once Enzo brought up the idea of like, oh, it's a whole separate world, and then it clicked for me, being like, wait, because of Jed's and Vox's time travel shenanigans, it allowed multiple different timelines to open up, and then everything was able to re-centralize into one timeline as the world trying to fix itself. By doing that, I can't say I allowed it. I needed to get approved to make sure like everyone's okay with that. But from a writer perspective, I feel like that just makes everything just have a more consistent story, but it allows everyone's story to continue, but you're not retconning anything like out of existence.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right, absolutely. That's the thing is like, because that's why I feel like, and I know we've been talking very negatively about it, and I want to slip this in just here, that like I like how things are. I like how things are, but as a viewer, like as a creator and as like for my personal enjoyment, I enjoy it, and I'm not saying that anybody is doing a bad job because it's literally this is nobody's fault.
I want to make one thing clear. I want to make one thing clear. I think everyone in Willow is doing a phenomenal job when it comes to storytelling. I think everyone's doing a great job when it comes to like their own individual characters. Like for example, I think I'm not sure if it was Ellie or Kaz's stream, but some viewers were crying at like the ending or like at the ending of the stream because of how way they did it. The problem that I'm trying to refer to is just the overarching rules and story of Willow, which is essentially what I believe is the biggest problem. Because if we look at everyone's individual character, it's phenomenal. It's great. I love everyone's stories and how some of them intertwine. But it feels like I feel like there has to be, but it feels like there needs to be like certain rules and certain like there needs to be certain rules and certain like notes and bulletin points to make things like have a much better understanding. Like when I say like I feel like the main focus should be the Willow Tree. It's not me being like, Dark, stop all your lore. We're gonna focus on the tree. No, essentially what I'm saying is like, hey guys, the tree is the main focus. Work around it.
Yeah.
And it's it's also like, for example, like the Void, it's just to make things a lot easier for people to follow. Because like people who's already been in the server, like when it comes to individual stories, that's doing great. But when it comes to like rules like that affects everyone's story, for example, like I need to double check: is the multiple voids like a confirmed thing, or is that just something you just said as an example?
I have no clue.
Dude, this is the thing.
Honestly,
it's canon as far as our streams go because that's how we've been explaining like the fact that we interact, and that's not our fault. That's because we've interacted with Nebula, who's familiar with a void, and then interacted with, gosh, I can't remember who else, but we've heard like hearsay in character of like, oh, there's this void and there's that void, you know, like or like I was
actually
in the void
came
and it was like
from
this,
console
or I was in the void and it was like that, you know. So it's just sort of pieces together, and it's just like, okay, so there's this void and that void. But there's also like an internal logic to be applied. Sorry, I'll let you finish, Jed. Give me 1 second. But like, I think there's also an internal logic to be applied that maybe these are all the same void, and the void is very susceptible to like personal impression of what it's like how sometimes they explain like how Galactus works in Marvel Comics as just like, yeah, the physical form of Galactus changes because it's like you can't comprehend Galactus. Therefore, the Galactus that you see is your brain's best like approximation of what Galactus looks like, you know, and thus it's different for everybody.
I think that's a great idea. That's actually such a great idea. That's actually a great idea because, like, just saying like the void changes depending on how you choose to view it. That actually fixes up a lot of people.
That changes it from like there are 9 layers of hell and here's what they are situation to a more like secular, here are personal. Like everybody has their own personal version of hell in their head, you know.
Yeah, and I think that's actually a perfect way to write about it, right? That will generally like not retcon there's multiple voids idea. It will keep the same void from Konzacraft, but the idea like that's how the void's been perceived throughout different multiple people. That would explain why, let's say Nebula went to the void and it was like a hallway. While, for example, let's say Jed went to the void for some reason and it was just emptiness, right? It will I think that's a great way to go about it, and I actually like that a lot.
And that's kind of why I'm glad that me and Jed are playing science characters, like characters who operate scientifically, because in science there are a lot of times where you collect data have a hypothesis, and then that hypothesis is like proven correct in the moment, and then blown out of the water when new information arrives. Like just completely like retconning how reality works, basically, in your head, like the internal logic of the world from your perspective, because you have new info. And so it makes a lot of those actual real retcons where it's like, no, it really did work that way, and now it doesn't. It makes a lot of those a lot easier to do because it's like, well, there's new science, there's new info. Like, people thought lead was good for them, and now we obviously know that isn't true. And people thought the void was like this, when in reality it's like that. It's a very complicated subject.
It's like this, and I think another thing to bring it up is that like explanations can change later on. But like something I kind of want to focus on is like the moment there's like a definitive explanation, I feel like there should be no reason it should be changed. There's no reason why it should be changed, right? Because I think that's generally I think that's just a great way to go about it. Like it's a good idea to keep changing it until you find like a permanent a permanent solution to it. But once you guys actually find that perfect like solution, just stick to it. Just don't change it.
Yeah, there's like I'm okay with those changes, and because this thing is almost wholly improv. There will be those changes. They're just unavoidable. Like I was saying, it's nobody's fault. It's just the way the cookie crumbles with this kind of a project a lot of the times. But I don't know. I have trouble identifying with Willow from like a audience storytelling perspective on like a grand scale, because like I'm so heavy into like stories that have a strong internal logic and through line to them, where it's like, yeah, those like retcons happen, but there's usually a good way to work backwards in my head to understand why they happened in universe, and like why things are different inside of the story, like inside of the narrative, like how to make that work sort of diegetically as like this is actually different, and there is a good reason why they changed it, both for the sake of this plot and for the sake of like the whole thing, if that makes any sense.
Yeah.
100%, and like that's one of the reasons why I have to kind of like that's why one of the reasons why I want to work so closely to help out Dark. I want to help out Enzo, or with like when it comes to writing some of the lore, because I genuinely believe like things could be running a bit. What's the word? Things could be running. Now what I'm trying to say, not things could be running. It's just things would be easier to understand.
Mm-hmm. And I think that's tough because, like you said, it's hard not to. You want to avoid where possible, like. Because you've done this thing where it's like, oh yeah, no, you can here's this server, you play whatever character you wish, with like the big, like the only real barring guideline being you can't have godlike power, because that would like break everything,
Break everything, yeah.
And like I think that sort of a soft hand approach is good for like a smaller project, but as it expanded, like that sort of stuck, and it's so hard to, in hindsight, come back to that and go, maybe we should have a firmer grip on what like is and isn't canon. And then like you start coming through and it's just like it's hard to, like, you don't want to stamp the like you're not canon thing on anybody, or like this isn't canon. You don't want to invalidate anybody's stories is mostly what I'm getting at. But at the same time, it's just like, it requires some working, It really takes some doing.
Because also like I do have to like come back and reiterate at the end of the day that like at the end of the day this is something I have to talk closely with the staff team. I have to talk to Enzo and Dark,
of course,
because like I feel like I need to keep putting out that emphasis a lot that I am not staff, I am not co-owner of Willow anymore. I'm a member who is trying to help out with trying to make things make more sense. I am helping Dark to the best of his abilities to be able to like finally like write, like to make things make more sense.
Right.
Like,
yeah. No.
Yeah.
And I completely agree with that. And I understand. It's like it's a very working process, and obviously, again, like you said, you're not staff, which is easy to forget, mind you, because you were staff so definitively for so long. It is easy even for me occasionally to forget that, like, oh right, Bush is just a member like anybody else right now.
Bush is just a member, yeah, and it's hard. It's also hard for me to also like. It's also hard for me to also like just like take time. Like it shouldn't be hard for me to process. It's easy. I'm just not staff. It just should be done in that. But like it also throws me for a loop sometimes, because I've been like I used to be co-owner of Willow for the last 2 years, and then all of a sudden I'm just no longer staff. So it's just kind of like it's kind of a hard thing to kind of get out of. So I kind of have to work with like what I have right now.
Mm-hmm.
So like everything I'm saying right now is not like originally if it was an idea I'd talk to staff and I could probably make it definitive like within next week, right? But because I'm no longer like co-owner or staff in any shape, way, or form, it could take a bit longer than that. And so I kind of have to work with like the limitations I'm currently with right now. So I would have to like take my process, talk to staff, talk to Enzo, being like, hey, what do you think of this idea? But and at the end of the day, if they don't like it, they just gotta say we don't like it, and that's that.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, I feel you. I feel you. It's definitely hard. I feel like I'm definitely trying not to step on any toes, but I'm definitely trying to get there too, where it's like I never want to be staff. I never ever want to be staff. That's not something I ever want for the sake of just like that's a lot of extra work that I just like don't really feel like taking on. You know, like I don't know if that makes any sense. But like it's not something that I would really consider. But I do like to be involved and I do like to help out where I can. And like so like it's definitely hard occasionally to like, oh yeah, I've had this really like big cool idea. I'd love to like present this to staff. And then it like either gets rejected or it gets met with just a like, yeah, let's talk with the rest of the staff about this sometime. And then it's like, okay, well, that idea is dying on the vine.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I think
Yeah,
that's the mentality, and I think that's the mentality I like, because for me, on the other hand, I would, like I said, I already talked about it a few times during this podcast. Like, I would love to come back to staff. I would like to come back to work and help out, but right
yeah.
now, since that's not like I said, I don't have an answer to that. As much as I would be like, guys, I went back to staff in 3 weeks. I'm coming back in 6 months. I'm coming back in a month. I just have to put on. I don't have an answer. I don't have an answer. It could be never. It could be 6 months. It could be a year. I just don't have an answer to that, and I just have to accept that, unfortunately. So I just kind of have to work with what I'm given. Like
No,
that's kind of the
Yeah.
worrisome part. That's kind of the worrisome part because like now that I'm no longer like staff or a co-owner, it's like I can't really like bring these ideas directly anymore. I can no longer be like, here's an idea. And I can like tell it to the entire staff team and almost everyone will know. But now I have to go talk to almost everyone individually, which takes a lot more time.
Yeah.
Right,
Yeah.
right. No, yeah, and I don't know. For all of its faults, I think the server's doing well, and I think it's on a good path. I think.
Oh yeah,
yeah.
like first off, I just
all
want to make. I
told,
also
we're
want to be
doing
clear
better
about
than
this.
most.
I just want to be. I just also want to be clear. I genuinely think Willow is heading in a good direction. Everything I'm saying is not me like constantly trying to bash Willow. It's not me trying. It's not me
I
being
know
like,
we've been
bring me
pretty
back, bring me back
critical
as
of the
owner,
server.
bring me back as staff. I'm never saying that in any shape, way, or form because I like
of
one of the
course
things I absolutely hate is when my words are just twisted and just like twisted and like just taken out of context. A lot of the things I'm saying is just a place out of love and like just a bit of open criticism because I feel like things could be going in a certain direction. But generally, I think Enzo and the staff team is doing a marvelous job when it comes to the overall server. They're getting people included. Enzo got you guys to do the Willow News Network. I don't know if that's public, so sorry if that isn't.
It is.
That's been announced. Yeah, that's out there.
Oh, that's been announced. Yeah, like the Willow News Network. The new members, the new like buildings and new ideas. It's all phenomenal. It's great. I absolutely love the way the server's going in a certain direction. It's just a lot of the criticisms is just the focus on like the bigger lore building of Willow. That's kind of where most of my criticism is kind of going.
Yeah. I think every individual in Willow is doing a great job. I feel like nobody's really at the helm of the ship completely, you know? Like I feel like we all are, and that's great. And like the staff is doing a great job of moderating that and keeping the ship from sinking.
Yeah.
But I feel like there are just like some it's more just fundamental like philosophies of how things get done with Willow. And like it's all structural. It's all like weird structural shit that kind of formed on its own without anybody really consciously putting anything toward it.
Because I think the moderation team
needs correcting.
I think the moderation team is great. I think
absolutely.
I think how Halo, Krim, Ellie, Enzo, I think Obi's on staff. I'm not sure about that one. Bo, RNG. I think the entire. I'm so sorry to any of the staff team. I completely forgot. I think you guys are doing a phenomenal job. I think Willow. Genuinely, I think I am like. I think I am happy with how Willow is. Like, I think this would have been like the direction I would have also taken it in if everything went completely fine. And I'm very glad their staff. I'm very glad Enzo's owner. I think Enzo's doing a great job running the entire server, and I'm really happy of where it's in the direction it's going into. And and Enzo has told me some of her ideas for the server, and I get excited when she tells me because generally I'm like, I like that idea.
Yeah,
absolutely. Yeah, no, no, yeah, the staff are doing a great job. The players are doing a great job. Everybody's handling it fucking fantastically. I want to be clear about that. That like, because I don't know. I myself have been fairly critical, very like nebulously about like, oh yeah, the way that this is handled isn't the way I would do it, or the way that this is the way that like we currently operate needs adjustment, in my opinion. But like,
I think
again,
that's it.
I'm
I
not
think
staff, and that
generally,
doesn't really matter. But
I think generally, I
know.
think that's it. It's not that like we're bashing. It's not that we're bashing like the lore. It's just it needs adjustment. That's kind of what it just needs. It's not me being like I hate this idea. It's like I suggest you guys adjust
constructively
this.
critical.
Constructively critical. And also, I'm also saying this as someone who kind of wrote the lore for like 2.5 years. So like this is for me personally, it's important to me because like I was when I first joined season 0 of Willow, I was 15. I was 15 years old, and now I'm 18, and I have like learned a lot about story writing since my time as a content creator. And so when it comes to like certain aspects, I was like, I feel like this would work better, and I feel like everybody would agree with it. And it's like, and if I do propose these ideas, I'm gonna try to get like a general idea. It's not general. I would try to get like everyone's like opinions on it if they do like it. And I feel like if a majority does like it, I think the members would like it.
Yeah,
absolutely.
Yeah, absolutely.
No. I sit with you in the same place on that. But speaking of coming back recently, and whatnot, how are you looking forward to coming back to Willow sometime between now and the Sunday when this episode will come back? More importantly, like being able to live kind of in this world that you helped like curate for like a year or two.
I think the best way I can describe it, it's just finally coming home. I think that's the best way I can go about it, because I always thought of Willow as my home. It's a place I always thought it's a place I will always hold dear to my heart. And if Willow continues to do a season 4, or it ends after season 3, or it continues to do more projects, it's always going to be a place I would always love because I was there when it was made. I was there through its worst. I was there through its best. I was there through essentially some of the most pivotal moments in its place. And like now that I'm no longer Sapphire owner, I generally the upside of that is that I'll be able to focus on playing my character instead of like playing God, instead of playing Eggman for some reason. And it allows me to like just have more opportunities for my own personal character. And that's always been a point in previous seasons. Why don't you just play yourself? But I always just enjoyed playing the god. I just personally enjoyed playing like just gods, or like just controlling where the story goes, because that always just been fun for me. But since I no longer have that liberty of being co-owner or staff, I think it's a good thing for me to actually focus on my character and see where I can take the story with him.
Yeah.
No, yeah, I'm excited for that. Do you want to talk any about our little plan? Because if we're executing on that on Friday, it'll be out in time.
Not Friday, because I actually miscalculated my dates pretty badly. So that's why we can like, yeah, no, so that's why I'm asking if we can do it Monday, actually. I thought Krim talked to you guys the other day.
Oh,
yeah,
right.
yeah,
Krim
no,
Krim did talk to us. Yeah, right.
Yeah.
I completely forgot. I had so much going on last night that like I really like was having a hard time taking any of it in. But that's beside the point. Yeah, no, we're doing it on Monday, so we actually can't talk about it on the show. I'm excited though, this weekend.
Oh, yeah, I'm
excited.
excited. Yeah, it's just, I will say this: it was just poor calculations on my end. So without going into details, I was supposed to join. I was supposed to join the Discord server Monday, but because of just things I cannot talk about, I'm going to be joining either later tonight or tomorrow morning. So that's what I meant by like I miscalculated my dates pretty badly. So because I didn't have the information that the server was gonna vote, that everyone was voting to do a that's public, the festivity on tomorrow. Well, it's gonna be out. The episode will be at
the fairgrounds
on Saturday.
Yeah.
Yeah, we're like, I did not account that's when it was going to take place, so that's why I said Friday. But the moment I was told, like, oh no, people's hopping onto the server on Saturday, that's why I was like, oh crap, I miscalculated.
Oh
Yeah.
yeah, that makes sense then. Yeah, no, I'm excited for Saturday. I'm excited for Saturday because again, like I said, zero want in my soul to ever be staff because man, that sounds just like a pain. But I do really love to watch a big group project come together. It is a
100%.
lot of fun to like push an idea out there towards staff and have it floated back to me as like a yes, we're doing that. We're all excited to do that. Let's make it happen. You know, and
Yeah.
even more exciting to see all the folks like Nebula and RNG and Mayhem and Enzo and everybody come together and put down plots. I'm definitely forgetting some people. Put down plots at the fairground and be so excited to like welcome in our new members with something like that, you know.
Yeah.
And that's always fun. That's always fun, and I'm very excited for the festivities of it. And it's like again, don't want to be staff, but being able to step in and head up little community things like this is fun, you know. And I don't mind doing
Yeah,
it.
and I think staff did a good job on that. Staff absolutely
Oh yeah,
did a
for
great
sure.
job on that, on like being able to like have a community project going and welcome the new members. And that was actually amazing, and I applaud them for that.
For sure, yeah.
Yeah. And that was a nice thing as well. But I kind of got it late, but Vox was like, "Yeah, I had this idea for Enzo, and we're doing it now." And I thought that it was gonna have to be done in like
We
24
kinda went
hours,
rogue.
so I was like busting my ass.
I misread the
Um,
announcement. I misread the announcement and was like, "Oh shit! New members are coming tomorrow. If we want to do this fairground idea, I got to get it done now." Because what happened was, I read that announcement, internalized it as tomorrow in my head, and then when I internalized that as tomorrow, I went ahead and was like, "Okay, all right, that's fine." And then I ran my like welcome wagon idea past Enzo, and then Enzo was like, "Oh sweet, could I help do that?" And I was like, "Yeah, you can help do that for sure." Um, and so I was like, yeah, you can help do that. The more the merrier. And when I said the more the merrier, I realized, wait, other people might be interested in getting involved in this. What if we expanded the idea to putting a little fairground down? And I ran that past Enzo, and like it was already late. It was like I think 2 a.m. at that point, and Enzo didn't get back to me. And I thought the new members were coming next day, and I was like, all right, well, forgiveness, not permission. Time to set up and ask for forgiveness, not permission when this inevitably gets shot down by staff. And I look like a fool sitting alone in my little fairground that I had set up. And I started like reaching out to a couple people that I knew would understand if it ended up being like, yeah, actually we're not doing that. You just built an entire booth for nothing. And like I got a couple people who I knew would understand that in that case. And then was expectant that I would be able to at least fill out the entire place by tomorrow. And then thankfully Enzo gets back to me the next day and goes, yeah, sure, we could do that. Still need to figure out a date for the new people to come in, though. And so I was like, oh, thank God it's not today.
yeah, yeah. But
Yeah,
it was
no,
a
whole
good time.
mess. But it was a
And,
good time, and I'm hoping it will be a good time when the fair comes around. The audience will already have seen it. It'll already be out there
yeah.
for them. Yeah. What do we have here? Oh, do you want to talk about any more of your Willow lore plans at all, Bush? With coming back.
So actually, a lot of my little lore plans, it all kind of depends on if the like you guys. I'm pretty sure I talked to you guys about like the revamp, not the revamp, but like the idea for like moving the story more focused around the Willow Tree.
Oh yeah.
Idea. It kind of all revolves around that, and I am gonna be pushing for it because I kind of will be a rat and be nonstop pushing for it because like I generally think it's just a good idea.
Yeah. Yeah. And just having things center around the Willow tree. And I always thought it was a little bit weird that Willow was kind of just vaguely Willow themed and not necessarily having much to do with like Willow trees or anything. So I think that could definitely be cool.
Yeah, like I said,
no, that could be a great
nothing's ever set in stone. At the end of the day, if I'm forced to like change up my lore because of that, yeah, if they said no, I kind of just have to just be like, okay, plan B.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Gonna have to pivot real hard on that one. But yeah, no, there is some plans there. Not a lot that you want to talk about, obviously. But you know, because you wouldn't want to spoil it. But have you ever considered like what it would be like to go back to the very beginning of it with what you know now and be able to like what you could have if these sort of principles were instituted from the beginning? Do you think like with the things
Like
that you know now that you'd be able to do a
season
better
one to
job?
season one,
Yeah, just like
or
all
like
the way back.
Yeah.
Like if you had to start
oh
fresh
oof.
practically.
It would just start first. So if for some reason I went back to 2022 to 2023 me, I think a lot of things would have been a lot different. Like
Right.
me running a server and how like its limitations would have been way better. Being able to write a story would have been 10 times better. I think how I handle things would have been better because, like I said, there's like every server has their own fair share of like mishaps or like drama or like something comes up. I think like a lot of it is just it would have been different if I had the knowledge I had now, but back then. But to give credit to where credit's due, I was young. I was just starting out content, so I do not follow. So I do not follow how things were ran back then. Now, do I believe
Yeah.
things? I always been vocal. Do I think things could have been ran differently, like a ton during season one, season two? How like the staff team was kind of structured and set up. Yes, 100%. But other than that, that's just things you just come to realize later. At the time, it was how it was at the time, and everyone just kind of have to be like, yeah, this works.
Yeah. Yeah.
Absolutely, yeah, but like that's I don't know. I because that's the first solution that jumps to my mind. I don't want Willow to be over, not for a long time, not by a long shot even.
Mhm.
But like, it's just like the thing that would ring out in my brain is just like, okay, how long until we just wipe the fucking slate clean with like a couple more
I
bounding
think
boxes, and a
I
little
think
bit
the
of a
best thing I
stronger
can
foundation.
say I think the best thing I can say is that every season of Willow essentially was like it's learning from its past seasons to essentially become the way better version of itself. Not even gonna say
One.
one. Anyway, oh,
Yeah, I
Yeah.
was gonna give it that like extra beat that you give it for a reason.
Yeah.
But anyway, we're back.
my bad, gang. No, essentially, I feel like every version of the staff team gotten better with each passing year. Season one staff team had its rough patches. Season two staff team had its rough patches. I can't really say much for season three because, like I said, I'm not on the team anymore. But I generally think like the team is essentially a better version than the last two seasons, especially when it comes to the server itself. I feel like the server itself is essentially a better version than the last two seasons, and I think that's how it should go. I think like
Oh
even though
yeah, it
with my
should
harsh
continue to get
criticism,
better.
I think my harsh criticisms of the lore about earlier, but I genuinely think the lore is probably at its best from previously from the last two seasons, and I think, like I said, we just gotta like just like clean up the edges around it when it comes to the lore, just making things more sense, making things be more understandable, making things feel more connected. Once we get over that like fence, I generally think things will be a lot better.
Oh, for
Mhm.
sure, for certain. Yeah, no, I think we're on a good spot. I think all in all we're in a good place, and a lot of the criticism that
Oh
I've
yeah.
given is like a lot of stuff that's like a little bit like in the weeds of the thing. Um if that makes any sense for this. But I think we're improving all the time. I think I'm with you on that like Willow is becoming a better thing, like not even just every
Oh
season but
yeah.
just about every week. It's better than it was the previous, but the seasons are a good
Previously.
marker of just like, yeah, no, absolutely, it's good to learn, and it's good to have that sort of foreknowledge going into a new season. Absolutely.
Mhm.
Exactly, and I think season three is actually really good. It's a really good place it is right now. Generally, everything I have said so far everything I said so far about like how the server is just so much better than it was the last two. I think it will continue to stand on that point, and if a season four happens, I'm pretty sure the staff team and Enzo will 100% like learn from this season and be able to improve it way better more in the future. Like I like my criticisms may be harsh, but this is someone who kind of ran the server for like 2.5 years, and I believe things could be different. But generally, the entire staff team has been doing a phenomenal job, and I'm
No,
very
yeah.
happy
Yeah.
about where it's going. At the end of the day, they're all working hard. They're all working with like remember, everyone here is all people at the end of the day, but they're actually taking the
Hmm.
time out of the day to work on a Minecraft server, and I think that's just incredible at the same time. So
Mhm.
I think I really am glad of how Willow is going as a server. Willow Media as a whole, actually, I'm very happy where it is with focusing its principles and ideas and pushing it forward because I feel like Willow is supposed to be like a nice community and a nice safe space for as many people, but at the same time, it should be allowed to be able to push its stuff more. It should be able to have things to run differently to make it feel so not run differently, just be able to like things could be changed around to be able to like finally like push it, like to be able to finally like I feel like there's a like what's the best word to describe it? When I mean like be able to like change things differently or move things around, it's being able to like finally break out of like that other shackle that has been holding them back to be able to flourish way more.
Mhm.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah.
No, I think, yeah, there are I don't want to say boundaries to be broken because that sounds a little violent. But like there are new horizons to like brave and new things to do in Willow that haven't been done yet. And I'm excited for the future, but I wanted to
100%.
throw that at you actually of just like you learn something new with every passing year. You get some sort of new challenge placed upon you. What do you think? What do you think this year has in store? What do you think it's gonna be for you?
For me personally or for Willow?
For you personally is where I was headed with that. It was just
Mhm.
like, where do you
For me
think you'll be?
personally,
What
I
do you think
think
you'll take away from the year?
I think what I'll take away from this year is like outside, like if we're gonna like not count well at all. I think this year I'm gonna be focusing so much on content and like just trying to improve on that because generally, I just feel like I deal with very bad procrastination, and I just
Mhm.
should have been
Mhm.
struggling way too much on that front. So I think it's this year I finally like get everything in order with my life. That's kind of it. I'm 18 now. I kind of have to like start. I have to kind of have to start like actually like stay committed to the things I do and enjoy my
Yeah.
life to the best of my ability.
Right, right. You
Yeah.
So
gotta
that's
you gotta
like
make that
actually
move.
yeah. So that's like focusing on like making content, working for people. Because like I will say this now, I really don't want to work a 9 to 5. Yeah, I just feel like it's just I don't think I'm capable of. I most likely am capable of doing a 9 to 5, but it's just I just see myself being so unhappy in that position that if I were to do a 9 to 5, I would just be struggling more than I would right now. And I think now like I'm 18, I have a lot of like responsibilities on my shoulder, and one of those responsibilities is actually getting my work done, be able to like become the content creator I'm supposed to be.
Mhm.
No, yeah,
Yeah,
for sure.
for
And
sure.
I feel that because I'm also going through sort of like a content focused journey. I have this moment with myself every year. I have this moment with myself every year at the end of the year where I'm like, all right, we did good this year. Need to do better next year. Need to really lock the fuck in. I need to like either make this content thing work or let it go.
Let
And
it go,
Mhm.
and
yeah.
drastically change how I'm approaching it. At the very least. And so like every year I have like a new mission statement. And this is the first year in a while where I haven't really done that to myself in the same way of just like, I need to drastically change everything now and see if that works better. Where it's just like, instead of that, I'm just gonna like keep it how it is and incrementally improve on it and try to just be more productive under that banner. Um,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
like give like this sort of set of circumstances a year two basically to continue flourishing and see if I can like keep the momentum, if like having that sort of momentum coming out of last year and into this year will help me really get by with it, and help me really like learn to flourish, I think.
Mhm. Mhm.
And
Exactly.
so I'm with you on like the definitely got to focus the fuck up and start taking things
Yeah,
seriously a
and
little more.
I cannot no longer just be like, I cannot be like, it's another year. Man, there's always next year. There is no next year. It's due or never. And I think I kind of have to just put that in my head now because of me just sitting around not doing anything. I'm just gonna just be making false promises I made to myself like literally a year ago. So it's safe to say like this year is the year I actually locked the F in.
Yeah, no,
Yeah.
absolutely,
Yeah.
completely agree. Um, speaking of that content creation process though, what do you find is like your favorite part single-handedly of making a thing?
I think just releasing the video. I want to be honest. Just releasing the
Hitting
Mhm.
video is
publish?
kind of my favorite part. You just getting published, yeah, cause yeah, you could say I love the script writing part, I love the editing part, right? But it doesn't matter if you never upload the video. So the moment you actually upload that video, that's when you can say that's what I say that's my favorite part. When the video is done, when I feel like I'm happy with it, I just release it and it's for everyone to see. That's my favorite part of the entire process. Cause yeah, you can like write 30 scripts and you never release a video. You could be editing for a whole month, you can never release the video. In my opinion, I feel like the moment you can be happy about your creation process is when it's actually been uploaded.
Yeah.
No,
yeah,
absolutely.
once you hit
I'm definitely
that
the same
go
way.
button.
There's a very old Vince Gilligan quote, the guy who made Breaking Bad, where he's talking about, where he's referring to his editing style and how he likes to sit in on the edit, because the editing and like doing your own editing is special, and like the edit is really where it all sort of comes together and you get to see the final product. But he said most of all that he enjoys having edited. As in, like, I don't enjoy editing. I enjoy, like, having spent a long day and being able to watch, like, 20 minutes of a 45-minute episode finally cut together and realized, you know? And I think I agree there, where it's like, hitting the publish button isn't necessarily where I stand. It's all the moments, like, right before where I'm like, hey, I need a second set of eyes on this. Anybody want to come take a look? Or like, proof watching it for myself the first time through. Or hitting publish and hearing people talk to me or comment on it or like it and just confirm, yeah, I engaged with this thing that you made and I liked how I engaged with it, you know? Because that's really where it comes from. Is like, I don't like creating as much as I like connecting with people on that sort of a level of being able to share a laugh and being able to share, or even just being able to share like a sentiment of some kind. And it's just like, the content creation is a good, quick, fast way to like knock that out and do that regularly. And I like that. That's an aspect of the thing that I enjoy. And so like, there's really no part of making a thing, because I do make things for my own enjoyment. If I were left in a vacuum with no one else around and all the creative tools necessary to me, I would still keep making things, probably at about the same pace that I do. But that extra little flourish of like, yeah, I can make this editing decision, not because I think it looks cool, but also more so because this is what I think will resonate most. And this is what I think people will, not that like I'm making things that people will like, as much as like, I really resonate with this, which means somebody else is really going to resonate with this in the way that I'm delivering it. And that always brings a smile to my face. That's always my favorite personal part. But I definitely get you on hitting publish. That is such a good moment to go, like for this thing that I've just been talking about, but also for personal satisfaction of like, yep, it's done. It's out into the world. I don't have to worry about it. I never have to think about it again. It's gone. As far as the only things that I need to do now are sit back and enjoy the fact that it is done and maybe start work on the next thing. You know?
Yeah, exactly.
Oh man. But I wanted to ask you about your workflow and everything too, because that's something we didn't really get into last time you were on the show, so it avoids us kind of retreading a little bit. How do you work on, like, what's the max amount of things? Like, how many plates do you have spinning at one time? Sorry, that took me a minute to get that question in there, but how many plates do you have spinning at one time on average?
I think it's actually, now to bring it up, it's one of the things I have to like get better on, because like as of right now, I'm currently working for like 2 different creators right now, so it's kind of like I kind of need to find a middle for my own content. But even when I have to free time for my content, I think the thing I struggle with it's actually like finishing like one step at a time. It comes back to me like procrastinating, or it's just like I'm just like struggling a bit when it comes to actually getting the work done. Like it's just tough.
Yeah.
No, absolutely. It is a tough thing, because it's like, and I feel so stupid calling this kind of stuff difficult when I'm talking to people who aren't familiar with like creative work like this, when it comes to like content or like theater or film or writing or anything like that, or even like other art forms like drawing and painting and whatnot, where it's like, yes, no, this is like, on paper, this is pretty easy work. This is pretty easy labor-wise in most cases for like an individual, compared to like, I mean, I'm not roofing in like 100-degree weather on top of a 2-story building or anything, you know, where I might collapse from heat stroke and like land on the ground and break my neck. But like, on the other hand, it's a completely different muscle that gets fatigued way faster in my experience. And it's that like creative bone in your brain of just like, you know, it's the thing about roofing or whatever is that I could go out and do that every day mindlessly. But the thing about like writing or like producing something like a creative work of any kind is that some days you just wake up and that muscle is atrophied. It is not working today. There's just nothing you can do to remedy that. And then other days you wake up and there's just not enough, like 24 hours of a day is just simply not enough to get what you want done for the day because you have that much motivation and that much sort of creative outpour. And so it creates like a weird sort of difficulties where it's like on paper this is not hard. In practice it becomes difficult to like manage it every single day, you know?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Like in regimen, you know? Like 8 hours a day every single day is what I've been doing lately. Like every weekday I'll like start myself a stopwatch and it's like, you know what? I want this to maybe be a career someday. I should start treating it like one now and just see where that gets me by the end of the year. And I'll tell you, it's some days I wake up like today where it's like I'm not gonna hit 8 hours. I could try like hell, but I'm not gonna hit that 8 hours. There's no way. I slept in, and I'm like, I don't know if it's obvious by this recording. I am not top of my game today.
We're
making
it's been
do.
a rough few days.
It's been a rough couple days. But we're making do just fine. And you know, you get by and you do the thing. It's, you know, but it's just hard expressing how difficult this sort of thing we do can be to people who aren't familiar.
Yeah, and that special like you'd said, that special muscle, that creative muscle is very different, and I do some like minor labor jobs where it's like, I'll pick shit up and I'll take it to the dump, and I actually like that because it's so mindless compared to like content creation where it's like, pick up the fridge, put it in the truck bed, go to the dump. And it's very like, it's hard work, but it's just, I don't have to think about it as much. And
that kind of stuff has an appeal. Like I like manual labor quite a bit, actually. Like, you know, because it's like it's so easy to feel productive having done it. And it makes such a good antithesis to content creation, in my opinion, and creative work in general, as I said, because it's like they're such polar opposites in like, you know. And the main thing I was saying about content is that it's just like I figured out what it was while you were talking, Jed, that it's just like a fussy cat in my head. You know, like you know how cats are, where it's like some days you never know what you're gonna wake up to. You get your cat a new thing, they just won't touch it. You think they'll like it, they just won't fucking touch it. And then you fucking like drop a cheese wrapper and they're fucking with that for 6 hours, and like suddenly you're on this creative flow with something completely inconsequential. And it just blows itself out of the water. And so it's like, there's just an air of unpredictability to it, I think.
Yeah.
Like, there's no real way, because that's why I was so averse when you were talking about how, like, oh yeah, not console craft, brick by brick isn't, it. Like, I don't really see the potential there from a business standpoint or a content standpoint. At least from the content side of things, it's just like, I get why you would get there, but it's just like, there's just no way to know. Like, I don't think anybody expected what came of console craft. We talked about that on the show and how much of a shock that was, that like did what it did so effectively, you know, despite everybody kind of just like nobody really knowing what that X factor for it was, but like all of us kind of feeling it. Like it's just crazy, the kind of projects that like escape you entirely like that, you know, where it's like I didn't think anybody would like this, myself included, but it's doing really well, actually, you know.
Exactly.
Yeah.
I don't know how we got here. I genuinely like got lost a few minutes ago in that.
No, you're good.
But it's just there's so much to talk about it, because this, like, you know, content creation is such like a thing. It's such like a special interest almost, where it's like, you know, I can't help but like, I don't know, there's so many facets. There are a lot of facets to cover, I feel. You got anything to add, either of yous? Just so I don't feel so insane.
I've not got much. I agree with you most of the time, but again, I'm less of a creative force. But what about you, Bush?
I don't have much to say. At the end of the day, I just do what I do and I do what I love.
Yeah. And speaking about you doing what you do, you know, lately with your content, do you have any other things that you're doing other than that? Because I have heard from you that you have a one monitor that is always on, what is it called? Adobe Premiere, the
Adobe
editing
Premiere.
software.
The fact, okay, so this should tell you why when we had that big fiasco early in the show about like the mix up of like people thought Jed edited the show. That's why I was so very clear about like, no, Jed does not edit a thing. This man could not name Adobe, like, gun to his head, you couldn't get him to say the phrase Adobe Premiere in full confidence, knowing for sure that that's definitely the name of the thing.
Yeah, yeah. No, I'm definitely not the editor.
Talk about your Premiere exclusive monitor. Have you burned a timeline into it yet?
Wait, can you what do you mean? What is this question? I do not understand.
We were told that you have a second monitor that's primary like excuse for existing in your setup is Adobe Premiere. Yeah.
Well, no, it's necessarily. It's just my second monitor in general. It's just like it's a monitor where I just use Premiere for. It doesn't even matter because Premiere just sucks in general as a program. Like $60 a month for everything, and it's still one of the worst programs out there.
Yeah, well, I guess I'm just asking though.
I think stability wise, it needs some work. It definitely needs to be a more stable program. But feature wise, I'm happy with Premiere. I'm perfectly happy with Premiere. I think there's a lot of After Effects that could just be baked into Premiere fairly easily, and to like everybody's benefit. But like, I don't know. I talk a lot of shit, but I think aside from like technical flaws, I'm pretty happy with Premiere as like a workflow.
Honestly, I think here's the thing. I think my say with Premiere is like it works. It's a program you paid for. That's as technical as I can get with it. It's just you paid what you got for. That's kind of how I can see a Premiere.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I guess what I was trying to ask though was it was less about the Premiere monitor. It was more about the fact that you have a Premiere monitor in general.
Yeah,
and I'm wondering what you do outside of your workflow to like
outside
how do you
of my work.
Mm-hmm.
Oof. I don't really
enjoy beyond content.
Beyond content, I just play a lot of games. That's kind of it. But like because of how much I like to work, I'm like, but I could be working. I could be making money right now.
Mm-hmm.
That's kind of how I feel about it. Most of it is just playing Marvel Rivals.
Yeah. Yeah.
No, I feel you. It's easy to get distracted. It's easy to get way off, but it's also easy to let yourself get carried away on the train of thought of like, what am I doing? I got to get back on the grind. I got to make some dough.
Yeah.
No, like I definitely feel you there where it's like I could be working on a creative project right now. And that's another thing that like I feel like if I were like an accountant or if I were like some manner of like laborer, I don't think my work would consume me. I don't think I would be nearly as much of like a weird workaholic as I am about ensuring I get as much done. But it's like, it opens up this door of creativity where it's just like, I don't know, I see a cool idea that I would like to incorporate someday. And then I start gravitating toward it a little bit,
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then like all of a sudden I'm back on work instead of enjoying the leisure time that I have away from it. I don't know. Which this like 8-hour thing a day has really helped me with, because at the end of the day when the timer goes off and I've finished my 8 hours, it's very easy for me to shut my brain out of it and just go on about my day. But you can't help when you have one of those like shower thoughts. Like that's the one thing that'll never shut off, is just like, you're watching like a movie or a TV show and you go, oh man, they could have done way more with that. I could do way more with that concept, actually. And then you back pocket it as just like, I've got my own little spin on this. This has struck inspiration for me. And like there's just no way around that. That's the only part of it. And so like that's why I feel that like the like unhealthy work-life balance that comes with professional content creation ends up being a lot of just like, you can't really stop being creative,
Mm-hmm. Yeah, but
absolutely.
Exactly.
I was just curious on that front because like I don't know. I hard disagree with the Premiere monitor, because you were making this as a don't have a Discord monitor, have a monitor for whatever you work on, and it's like Discord monitor is good. Discord monitor is really good, actually.
Yeah, I just like having a work monitor. Like at the end of it's just convenient, but I just like having a work monitor.
Nice.
It's just fun. It's just fun. That's kind of my whole thing with that.
I also have to wonder, what the fuck kind of computer do you have that you can like have Premiere open with a running edit and play something at the same? That is like 70% of your CPU, dude. How do you not get like sick of it and closing?
Like, exporting, you should be
Yeah, no.
relatively
As long
fine.
as long as you're not exporting. Yeah, it's kind of when you're not rendering and exporting, it kind of relax. It takes and again, I have 64 RAM and I allocate like 50 of the RAM to that. Most games you just need 8 to most games you just need 8 to like 8 RAM, and that's what I tend to do sometimes.
64 gigs of RAM is insane.
Yeah,
I've got
it was
32 but yet to top it out.
Yeah,
it's primarily for Premiere. That's the thing, though.
It is exponential with renders and exports. It is exponentially faster the more RAM you have. Like 32 gigs definitely gets me way faster than like 8 used to, and I'm sure 64 is the same way, where it's like this is so much better. Like editing machines always have like a ridiculous amount of RAM for those kinds of workstations.
Yeah, if I have to like recommend, like if someone's trying to buy like a computer, just get 32 RAM. Like if you're just using it to game, just get 32 RAM. But if you're a creator, just go for the 64. Why not?
Yeah,
if you're able to buy it.
I don't know. Yeah. I think 32. I think 32 is my current recommendation. I was stuck in 8 land. Like I was stuck with fucking 8 gigabytes of RAM for probably 6-7 years. Is just like no, this used to be like a good amount. This used to be a good amount, I swear. And just like refusing to move on with the times, and then like finally making that call. I was originally just gonna go up to 16, but I accidentally bought. I went to the Best Buy, took the definitely what was 8 gigs each little like marker off the rack, because they keep that kind of shit behind the counter for obvious reasons. And then you take it to the counter, and then I go, yeah, let me get 2 of these. And the guy was like, you want 2 of these? All right, man. And then my order totaled out to like at checkout, it totaled out to about what I thought. And then I got in the car and I look at the receipt and I go, it's about $10, $20 more than it should be. Oh, that's because I got double the fucking RAM than I was supposed to. The guy just brought out the wrong ones and like still scanned them. They scanned right. I paid for them, but like, I don't regret it at all. Actually, I'm glad somebody bit that bullet for me, so I didn't have to.
Having somebody else make that decision. But it's definitely a decision that from what I've seen from you, is definitely worth it. RAM is a important thing, and like I've been working with 32 gigs, and I don't even do like exporting or anything. I do like music and shit. So I was like, fuck it, 32.
Honestly,
of a big PC.
I actually thought about like upgrading to 96 gigabytes, because that exists. 48 sticks of RAM exists.
That's so expensive. They also get exponentially more expensive.
I'm thinking,
but hey, I like it.
That we're gonna get for when we move, part of the moving expense that I'm probably gonna have him save for, because we're already saving to build him a PC. And so I'm thinking that we'll just double that. And since I just about need an upgrade anyway, that saving us a little time, and it's just like, I'll go through, I'll pick out parts, and then we'll buy 2 of each, and we'll build 2 of these fucking things, and we'll have matching machines that way, because he's not very technical. He's not gonna be able to like do those kinds of repairs on his own if something hardware wise gets like fucked, and it's like, it would just be easier in general of just like, in a pinch, I'll be able to help. I'll be able to like knock it out, because it's practically a clone of my machine. But that's what I'm thinking about doing, and I'm so excited because another very key thing, I'm running with a 1660 Ti. It's about time. And like a
it's running
like i5 from like 2017-ish. So it's like it's about time that this machine gets put to rest after like 4 or 5 years of use.
And somehow your 1660 Ti is performing in better shape than my.
It's because I buy Trooper cards.
Ryzen something.
I buy graphics cards. I buy computer hardware that is like, this was only kind of good when it came out, but it will continue to be kind of good until it gives out on you. Like in like 8 or 9 years, this will still be kind of good in all the ways that matter. And so like, I never get anything like the brand new off the rack new fucking 4080 Super or anything, because it's like, that's going to be like outdated in a couple years somehow. And if it's not, it's overkill. You know, I can get something that'll last just as long and run things just as decently. You know, at least for what I use it for. I don't play anything with ray tracing on because like I just genuinely 99% of the time ray tracing makes almost no visible difference. And like you can't beat baked shadows to me, honestly. When like it's one of those things that like borders like that borders like automation going too far in my opinion, where it's like no, ray tracing can look really good, and letting like based on the position of the sun, letting the computer decide where light should be cast is great, but
and you play Among Us, and that doesn't matter anymore.
yeah, then you play something like Among Us, and like you're like, well, this is just good. But it's also better to me to have baked shadows because it means that like typically it means that like a real artist came through and went, I like shadow there, and I do not like shadow there, you know, and then baked it in, you know, and I appreciate that a little bit more in most cases. But either way, that's my little ray tracing rant. My point more so was that like computer upgrades are always like phenomenal both for games and for editing, because Premiere will use about 50%, 75%, I'd even argue. Hell, it'll top out if you don't stop it from topping out. If you don't put any limits on it, Premiere will use everything you got. Every little drop of resources it has access to if you put no limiters on it. And so it's just like and so it's just like the better you have, obviously by that metric, the better it's gonna do. And you know, so it's always better as an editing machine too. And so that helps me justify a lot of my like purchases that are mostly just like I just kind of want a better computer for like shits, you know.
Yeah, just get a better computer to have a better computer. For me, like I'm starting to get to the point where I'm like, okay, my computer might be ready because I've piecemealed the shit out of my computer, and it's some of these things are like, yeah, I got this last year, and some of the things inside of it are like, yeah, I think I got that from a pre-built from a 2014 computer, and it's like I should probably just you know start fresh, you know, because those like 2014 parts are never gonna go away. Yeah, if I don't do that. But
you gotta get a clean slate going at some point. Highly recommend it. That's kind of where I'm at for 2025. Whereas with my digital stuff, I've kind of leaned in the direction of just build on what you have, just improve over time. With the physical bits of my life, I'm very clean slate, scorched earth kinda right now, where it's just like I just want to get rid of all of it and start fresh, because all of this has been like. Everything I own is a big collection of like 5 to 10 years, depending on the thing, of like wear and tear and pull and push. And it's just like, it'd be nice to just be all new for a little bit and be able to institute better habits with the things that I own, you know?
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. But no, that's where I'm at. That's where I'm at with that. I just, you know. But yeah. Bush, where are you currently? Where are you in your personal life in 2025? Where are you?
Like personal life, I'm currently running community college at the side, but at the time being, content will always be kind of my currently the current goal of my life is just to focus on content. I have plans for the year, but content will always be my main focus. Like I said, I do not want to do a 9 to 5. I feel like that would be detrimental to my mental health. But I also want to have a future, so I gotta lock in a content creation, work for the people I work for, and see friends this year.
Yeah. What's your major, if I can ask?
I don't really. Okay. Every time I get asked that question, I always tend to say like, I don't really have a major. The closest thing to a major is just film, because it's the closest thing to being a YouTuber. But generally, I'm just doing it just to get my degree and call it a day. I don't really have a major to look forward to.
Yeah, fair enough. You're just in your standard you know, I can't remember what it's called, because there's like the social one and the sciences one. But yeah, just get your standard community college degree, 2-year degree. But yeah.
Yeah, no, that makes sense.
Yeah. And content wise, do you have any projects that you want to talk about here and things that you're excited for to
I can't really go on too much projects. All I can say is just I'm posting things on YouTube, and that's all you got to see. Just like wait till I upload. That's all I can say about that one.
Yeah.
Well, do you want to speak more generally then about Minecraft content going forward in the future, of just like not for you personally, but just in general? Where do you think? Yeah, just like casting a wide net here on just Minecraft content in general. I had a whole thing last episode. We were talking about our predictions for the new year, and one of my predictions was something's going to happen this year. There will be a project from someone that will come along and change everything about Minecraft content. There will be some big thing. It happens like every year or two now at this point, so it's a pretty safe bet that this will happen. And there will just be some year-defining dream SMP level project that will just alter the landscape pretty heavily after it. Do you have?
So
Do you agree with
actually,
that, or do you have? If you do you have any idea? Like, what would be your best guess that project is? Like by description.
So by description, I think it would generally just be another SMP, but the issue of saying it's an SMP, I don't think it's ever going to get dream level scaled SMP, because a lot of people tend to forget the reason why the dream SMP got big is because something funny happened in 2020, which forced everyone to be inside. So the reason why like that big, because I can't for the life of me what was the last biggest thing that everybody loved about Minecraft other than like Dream SMP. Or like, of course, there has been there other like as big. I know there's like big series, like big SMPs like Kaboodle SMP, Lifesteal, Money SMP, but like never on the grand scale as Dream SMP. Because going into Dream SMP, you need to remember PewDiePie was doing his Minecraft Let's Play series. The pandemic hit. All these Dream just did manhunts, which I'm surprised no one has done before till he showed up. It was just a lot of contributing factors, which eventually led to the big thing, which was Dream SMP. And I think Minecraft is still, and the thing about Minecraft, it's always an innovating landscape. For example, I don't think voice chat became very important in most SMPs, like to this day. When it comes to like the Essentials mod, even though the creator's not the best, I think Essentials showed like how people like how easy it is to like kind of like invite people to worlds and like not worry about getting a server. A lot of things about Minecraft has been simplified and much easier for a lot of people. But when it comes to the content creator sphere, I could be proven wrong, but I don't see anything that's gonna be massive or big like for the next 6 months. Like at most, it's just gonna be another SMP that gets big. Hey, maybe it could be Willow. But like another SMP that gets big, and that's how it goes, and all the people benefit from it. And that's kind of my hope for it, because I highly doubt. I could be proven wrong. Who knows? Maybe there's like a technical advancement people find out of Minecraft, or people learn how to like create. I don't know. They learn how to build a walking skyscraper. It's that type of thing. I think the only way I can see Minecraft ever going through another big revolution is if like a celebrity plays it. Like I don't know, Taylor Swift just starts streaming on Twitch. That would cause Minecraft to implode in popularity again. There has to be certain conditions to be met for like Minecraft to become big again. Because right now everybody's doing Squid Game. Every creator who's able to like host a server is doing Squid Game because Squid Game released. It's like it's not innovative. I no, it's not innovative at all. It's just doing what was popular at the time and 10 people doing it.
Yeah. Yeah.
No, absolutely. And there are always going to be people trend chasing. I don't know. I feel something in the air about it. Maybe I'm off, and I could totally be off. But I don't know. I feel like me personally, and I feel like you do it too to some extent and might be able to relate. I covered this last episode too in conjunction with this topic, so I feel like I'll be quick for the audience's sake on my end at least in recapping it. That I feel like I don't know. I feel like I'm always looking for what that next big thing is. I'm definitely trying to not necessarily be the guy who puts that next big thing into place, even though that would be nice. But you know, I'm trying to like attach my wagon to the right horse here. You know, and
Oh yeah,
like,
and I will say this: I am very optimistic that I am proven wrong, and the next thing is there. Like that's the thing about what I love about content
No,
creation.
yeah.
Like as of right now, I don't see anything that could be big. But if something in like the next month is just massive and it's just big, I'd be like, damn, I was proven wrong. And I'm always excited for the future of Minecraft. Like I'm pretty sure we can all agree, like Minecraft is always an ever changing landscape. They just released like their next Snapchat with like new pig variation that leave. They finally fixed lodestones, but I still think lodestones would still be the worst item in the game. But like it's just there is an ever changing landscape, and even in the content sphere, a lot can happen, a lot can change. And one of the things I can just say is we just gotta wait and see.
Yeah.
No, yeah. No, yeah.
Just,
Speaking of that, have you felt about the recent switch that Minecraft's done from major updates to primarily drops of like here's a bunch of cool features. They're not really themed, but here they are. Take them.
I think it's great. I think it's one of the best decisions they made because they tend to always promise these big additions. But like, let's say Caves and Cliffs are an example on how much of a disaster that was. They promise a bunch of stuff, but like it was then eventually broken up into 2 updates. Bundles have been delayed till this year, which is crazy. No
Yeah,
bundle.
no, it's
I don't know if bundles are.
ridiculous.
Yes, straight up like a new like Birch Forest variant was announced during Caves and Close, but it just never happened. And it's just like, why announce it then? So them actually focusing on smaller updates they can focus on is actually, in my opinion, the best and smartest move they can go about updating Minecraft for the future because it allows them not to be fully like held back by constraint, but allows for the players to get more features quicker.
Right.
Mhm.
Yeah, absolutely. It allows the game to grow and evolve at a pace that's more in tune with how its community grows and evolves. Because again, there's always something big or small ready around the corner when it comes to Minecraft that like I see something at least monthly on my feed that's like, wow, that's amazing. I've genuinely never ever considered doing that in this game. And so like
Yeah.
Yeah.
it's great to see Mojang trying to like sort of finally trying to make an effort to keep pace and like because I enjoyed the larger drops too, but don't get me wrong, I loved like waking up one morning and finally the Nether update's out. The whole Nether is brand new to me. Let's go, and things of that nature. But like I don't know, I kind of enjoy this more on like a gratification scale of just
Oh
like
yeah.
this is better. I think this is better for the vibe of the game than just like annual big drops. And I feel like we'll
Oh,
end up
yeah.
with
100%. I
more
think Minecraft should be
content and
going
more
this way.
worthwhile content, over
Because I'm
time.
cool, because I know eventually they're gonna have that grand thing they want to update, but like the small content updates is a good idea. Like, let's say they have like they want to update one structure in the end, right? Awesome, that's awesome. They're focused on one thing, because like now they're no longer like forcing themselves to like worry about making these big updates they can no longer deliver on. They're actually being able to focus on like smaller things, and they can actually like commit to that. Because that was the issue with Mojang. They promised big stuff, but they were unable to commit to it.
Yeah, no,
And
I feel you. They
people could
just like
argue.
overcommitted to their ability.
And people could argue like, oh, they're developers. They have to take time with. They have to take time with, the updates. And I understand that and all. But if you're not going to deliver on what you promised, then don't announce it or promise it at all.
But
Like
measure your
actually commit to.
expectations like to your ability to produce. Yeah.
Exactly. That's kind of my whole belief. Like if because the reason why Caves and Close was disappointing is because everyone was hyped when it was originally announced. It was like, oh my god, we get all these crazy things, we get all these crazy features that's coming in, broken up into 2 updates. Okay, we still get I don't know what's the feature they had to delay. Actually, bundles. Oh, I can't wait for bundles in the next patch. Doesn't release till 2024. For the Birch Forest variation, doesn't happen. For Fireflies, oh, poisonous frogs. It's like, what is happening? Like
Mhm.
they could
Yeah.
100% be doing better. And I hate being critical of Mojang because they are hardworking people. But like from someone who plays the game almost religiously, and someone who like constantly like watches it and want it to be its best, it's just upsetting.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, and it's
Yeah,
like I don't mind being critical of them in this way because most people are critical of them by just going like, "Oh yeah, they're lazy. They don't work." And
They're
it's
not
just like
lazy. They're
they
they're
work
they're
they
not
work plenty
lazy.
and they get plenty of work done for the scale that they're having to work at. And it's just more so that like they had a period in the middle there where they kind of just like overpromised, underdelivered like pretty regularly and are still
Cause
dealing with the
like
fallout of that a little bit.
yeah, it's like it's essentially the same thing where it's like they're doing great work. They're doing Marvel's work. It's just they gotta change things up, and I think the way they went about this is the best way they could go about it. They're hardworking people because I feel like everyone's calling Mojang lazy, but they're always working on the game. They're always trying to like make it the best game they can be, and they sometimes deliver, they sometimes don't, and that's just being a developer.
Mhm.
Yeah, no,
Yeah.
that's just how it goes. We're all human, of course. It's no
We're all
it's
human. Yeah.
nobody's
And
fault.
anytime when I like harshly criticize something or like trying to be blunt about it, it's never from a place of like, oh, I'm angry. No, like especially with Willow earlier, it's never me
No, of
like being
course
like, you
not.
guys are doing a bad job. No, you guys should do X, Y, Z. No, I generally think it's just me from a place of love and care because like I said, I love Minecraft. It's been my number one game since I was like 12 or 11. Same for Willow. I loved the Willow ever since it was creative. It had its hard patches, but essentially it's becoming its best version of itself. So anytime when I give out some type of fresh criticism or harsh criticism, it's because I wanted to improve in those sections as somebody who like played these games or participated in this, and I wanted to be the best version. And I'm not trying to say that, and like also to also clarify, I'm not trying to say any of these to like make myself look better, any shape, way, or form. I'm still human at the end of the day. I'm really so that's something I'm actually willing to talk about. I'm very flawed. I'm like a really flawed person, and I'm still trying to get better every day with every waking moment. I'm trying to be the best version of myself. Like I just turned 18. I'm still trying to discover myself. I'm still trying to like be the best version of myself, trying to like learn how to be a like I wouldn't say be a good person because I am a good person. I haven't murdered anyone, but I'm like still trying to like I'm still just trying to find myself in this world and just like understand things to the best of my ability. Because there's still things I don't understand. There's still things I still trying to figure out as a person.
No, absolutely, and there's always something new to learn. There's always something new to see, and there's improvements to be made.
I will be open. I will be open about this. I have made my fair share of mistakes ever since I came back. Right, I have accidentally upset some people. I have actually made some mistakes here or there, but at the end of the day, I have people to keep me in check. I have people to make sure I'm still growing. That I don't get stuck in a position where like I'm unable to change back, and that's something I'm still learning at the end of the day. Actually, once again. Love Enzo to death. She is probably one of the best people and best friends I could have asked for in my life. She's been such an essential, crucial part of my life and me like actually becoming essentially the best version of myself. And I'm very grateful. She's always there to keep me in check and to make sure like if my attitude or how I'm behaving is starting to get out of hand, she will be the first person to essentially be like, Bush, you're an a-hole, man. And she's gonna sit me down and tell me like how's been my behavior and my attitude. And because of that, it allows me to like see where my flaws are and I'm able to like fix it and correct it. So interaction with people in the future is just better and I don't get into like more trouble than I need to.
Yeah.
No, absolutely.
Yeah, it's good to have those people
who
will do that for you.
Yeah, and I think that nobody's perfect. We all have room and possibilities to improve. I think that's a pretty solid thesis statement this episode. I think we've actually somehow, despite how roundabout and sort of jumping all over the place this episode has been, I feel like that actually has landed us in a pretty good through line, of just like always shoot to improve. There's always something you could be doing better than you're currently doing it.
There's
But you're also doing fine.
I'm doing fine. Yeah, 100%. It's like there's a ton of people I could be shouting out and like to give like a thanks for like helping me get where I am. I like obviously I am always gonna be praising Enzo and giving my thanks to Enzo for everything she has done. I give much praise to Halo for being a good friend. I give much praise to Crimp being a great friend to me. I give much praise to Dark for being just there and being like essentially my brother to me. Like all these people that I've shouted out have been essentially important to me growing up as a person, and actually for me being just a better person. Like I want to be open up about this. I was angry the other day. I don't know why. I was in the VC with like a few of my friends, and I don't know why I was just angry in that VC, and it was just me thinking. And like to the life of me, I couldn't for the life of me understand why I was angry. But essentially I have people who are willing to like be next to me and just being able to hear me out or just even wanted to DM me or just shoot me a message just saying like, hey, are you okay? Hey, are you okay? Or do you want to talk? Do you want to hang out? Like everyone has been so important in my life. I'm grateful that I have met everybody. And even though like there's times I feel like I might get into a small kerfuffle with somebody or I might get into a small argument with somebody, at the end of the day, it's all about communication. And I think that's essentially how people can grow at the end of the day.
Yeah.
Yeah, no,
yeah,
I absolutely agree. But unfortunately...
Also, before we continue, actually, yeah, you're going to actually have something to say if you're going to end. Are you ending right now?
Yeah, I'll pass it back to you in a sec.
Yeah.
I was just going to say that unfortunately we are just about out of time this episode. This really flew by. But yeah, before I get into my usual outro spiel, I'm going to pass it over to you, Bush, again, because I was going to ask you where the people can find you, but now I got to know what this thing you were about to say is.
Oh, yeah. Okay, so actually, am I cool to shout out a few people?
Yeah, for sure. Go for it.
Yeah, actually, to find me, it's Sebushtin Bush on all platforms. I now stream it on Twitch. I know, crazy. I'm multi-streaming now. I'm going to be Sebushtin Bush all across the platforms. So if you want to see my content, my Twitter, my YouTube, my Twitch, I'm going to be there. I want to give out massive shout-outs to name people specifically. Shout-out to Enzo, shout-out to Crimrose TV, shout-out to Halo Mixer, shout-out to Dark, shout-out to, the entirety of Willow. Like, despite my harsh criticisms, this entire podcast, I just want to say you guys are one of the best group of people I have met. You guys do your job excellent. And yeah, there could be things that could be adjusted. There could be things that could be changed here or there. But the way you guys ran the server during my entire absence and how you guys been running the server 6 months after since everything happened, it's been marvelous. You guys do a great job, and I'm very happy that you guys are running what essentially was my baby, and I'm very happy this is how ways are going. And I hope to see Willow continue to move in this direction, and I hope for it to be the best. And my final thing, before I pass it over to whoever's ending the episode, is I want anyone who's watching this to count the amount of times Voxel and Jed said, "Yeah, absolutely," after every time I said something, because I noticed that the entirety throughout this. Because every time when I said, it's like, "Oh, absolutely," "Oh yeah," then the sentence. But other than that,
I don't know.
Thank
We
you.
fall into our patterns here. But
Yeah.
speaking of patterns that we fall into, you can find new episodes of the show every Sunday at 3 p.m. Eastern Time on both YouTube and Spotify. We premiere them over on YouTube if you wanted to have a little talk in the live chat with other fans of the show. That's a possibility. And then for the Spotify one, it also exists and comes out on time. We've got a backlog of something like 33 episodes, including this one, on both platforms, so feel free to check the show out. You can find all of our links in the description on the Fight About It card page at the bottom of the description, so give that a look. And yeah, that's it, everybody. I don't think we have a closing bit this time.
I don't think we have a closing bit.
I got it.
I
got it.
You got it? All right, go for it.
Have fun, Bush.
Everybody,
shout
out to Jed and Voxel for Fight About It. Which episode? 33?
33.
Or in episode 33. 33. Thank you, episode Jed and Voxel, for bringing me out for episode 33. This has been a great conversation with the two of them. These guys are great hosts. Thank you for inviting me to come back for a second episode. Remember to come back next week is next week a guest episode, or is next week
solo?
Solo. So come back next week for a solo episode. And until then, everybody, have a great night, have a great time, and especially shout out to anyone in the California area dealing with the fires. Please stay safe out there and hope for the best, and prayer for everyone out there. All right, goodbye.
All right,
see you
bye.
Around.